Welcome to the Career Change Podcast, where you'll discover the frank and practical advice and resources that are already proven to work in the real world when it comes to changing careers or figuring out what business is right for you when you are a smart but likely also stuck, overwhelmed, or overthinking person in your mid-30s, your 40s, your mid-50s. I'm your host, Rikke, Hansen, a career change advisor, entrepreneur, and former corporate HR professional with over 15 years experience of helping thousands of people just like you identify or create careers or businesses that are both meaningful and future-proof. Welcome home. Welcome to episode 34 of the Career Change Podcast. Let's talk about dabbling when it comes to how you approach your career change and what to do about dabbling if that's your issue, what to do about it if you actually want to change careers or to start your own business. So let's make sure this particular episode is right for you. Let's find out. So I want to start by asking you a direct question right up front of this episode. Do you dabble, or are you consistently 100% committed when it comes to your career change? Now be honest here. And I want you to think about the time you consistently spend or don't spend and how consistent you are with your efforts or not. You know, one very helpful way to get honest and real about the answer to this question about whether you're a dabbler or whether you're 100% committed is to actually look at your results or your lack of them, and also about how you're feeling about the whole career change process. Here's the fact. Dabbling tends to leave you exhausted, scattered, and second-guessing with nothing to show for it. You start, you stop, you start, you stop. You're still back at square one. Whereas commitment, a 100% consistent commitment, tends to energize and focus you, or at least make the energetic effort worthwhile, right? The good kind of tiredness when you've done things, and you will have progress and results to show for it over time. What commitment really means is that you keep going. You are on your way. That's what commitment really means. So, are you a dabbler, or are you 100% committed to your career change? Just think about that for a moment. And keep listening if you are a dabbler. And here's why I want to talk about dabbling. Dabbling is a very sneaky and very dangerous self-sabotage tendency. And I see this tendency sabotage career changes all the time. So not only do I want to talk about it and tell you to stop doing it, I also want to help you understand why you're doing it. What is it really that's happening here so you can get a handle on it? Because it is very, very sneaky, and there are, in quotation mark, very good reasons why you might be doing it, this whole dabbling thing. So if you recognize yourself as a dabbler or a faffer, then this particular episode of the Career Change Podcast is for you. Keep listening. And I also just want to say, this is not about telling you off or shaming anyone. A lot of people are dabblers. But that's not a good reason to remain a dabbler if it's not giving you what you want. I know that you're likely listening to the Career Change Podcast, and thank you for listening, by the way, because you want things to be different for you. You want to change. You want to start that business. You want to change careers. You want to figure out what you want. And that is exactly why it's so important to address dabbling, because dabbling will keep getting in your way until you get a handle on it. Okay, and here's the real reason why it's so important to talk about dabbling. Now, I want you to guess, what do you think one of the biggest regrets of career changes consistently tend to be? As in, what do you think is one of the biggest regrets of those who've already successfully changed careers or started their own business? What do you think that is? Now, I've spoken to and worked with thousands of those since 2005, and here's the phrase I hear the most. I wish I'd made the change much sooner, much earlier. I wish I started that business or, changed careers much earlier, much sooner. And then when I then ask them to dig into, well, why didn't you do that then? Here's how they tend to elaborate. They'll say things like, because I wasted so much time dabbling and faffing about, I really wish I'd committed 100% much earlier on instead of dabbling because it felt safer than going all in and being committed. And I also wish I hadn't wasted so much time waiting for things to unrealistically be 100% perfect. My circumstances, the state of the world, my confidence, my ideas, you name it. I wasted so much time dabbling and hoping the world and my circumstances would somehow align 100% in my favor, and then I could commit. And they all realized, those people, that didn't happen. So at that stage, that's when they decided to go all in and change. With this episode, I want to cut your waiting time. I want to cut your unrealistic ideas about how the world and career changes, they work. Okay, so remember that one of the biggest regrets of career changes is that they wish they made the change much sooner, that they hadn't just faffed about dabbling and wasted time waiting for perfection. So you've been warned, okay? What I can tell you is that what every single person will need to realize before they can change careers, before they can actually get, the results that they want, is that there is not going to be a time when everything aligns 100% in your favor. You have all of your ducks in a row. The world will be in favor. Your idea will be perfect. That's not going to happen. So what you really need to realize instead is that what you want to focus on instead, and what you can pretty much control 100%, is your commitment. Now, that's what you focus on, and that's when everything starts changing. The day you stop dabbling and faffing and waiting for things to be perfect, the day you instead commit 100% to making your career change happen even so, or the day you decide to commit 100% to figuring out what you want, whatever stage you're at right now, that is when your career change process starts, and only then when you commit to going 100% all in. Before that, all you are doing is wasting your time faffling and dabbling and waiting for perfection with nothing much to show for it. So let that sink in for a moment. Everything changed. Those who are over on the other side, who've changed careers, who started that business, everything changed when they realized they needed to replace dabbling and waiting for circumstances to be 100% perfect with a 100% commitment to go all in. That was the answer for them. That is what separates those few who actually make their career change happen from those many who still stay stuck and faff and dabble and wait for things to be 100% perfect before they take any action, before they commit. And I just want to say, when I say commit 100% or go all in, that does not mean quitting your job without anything lined up, nor does it mean spending 100% of your waking hours on your career change or on your business. I'm a professional career change advisor. That's what I do for a living. So I work with real people over 35 with real lives, real family, real risks. So when I say commit and go all in, what I mean is that you stop faffling, you stop dabbling, you stop being unrealistic about perfection, and you just get real about the time that you do have available to consistently invest in your career change, in building that business and figuring out what you want. And you spend that time committed, focused, instead of faffing about on social media or doing any kind of other distraction technique. You focus on the few things that truly matter. You get really, really serious about the urgency of your career change. That's what I mean when I say 100% commitment, going all in. You stop dabbling, you stop faffling, and you commit. You might only be able to do that initially a number of hours every week, and then you extend that, but you start now. You don't wait for things to be perfect. Now, back to dabbling, because there's a lot of stake here. And in this episode, I want to talk about two very, very sneaky ways that dabbling finds its way into the life of even the most intelligent aspiring career changers and what you can do about it. And I really want to talk about what's really behind dabbling, specifically when it comes to career change, and because it's really, really sneaky, and there might be in sort of quotation marks very good reasons why you're doing it, right? And I also want to talk about why waiting for things to align 100% before you commit, it actually reflects a totally unrealistic and unhelpful misunderstanding of how the career change process actually works in the real world. So the two things I want to talk about. Number one is the fact that dabbling does not protect you against failure, but it does delay or block your career change. We'll talk about what fear of failure has to do with dabbling. And number two, don't fall for the 100% fallacy. Focus on your commitment instead. All right? Those are the two things we'll talk about. Now, let's talk about why dabbling is so attractive. So why is dabbling so attractive for career changes? Dabbling is so dang attractive because you feel like it protects you against failure, right? You are so worried about failing at your career change that you will rather dabble and not go all in. This is a sneaky thing I want to talk about right up front, right? Use dabble because you hope it's going to protect you against failure. Dabbling feels safe because it feels like a buffer against failure, right? Instead of taking a specific action, like calling that person or showing up at that important new industry event to connect with the right people or hitting publish on a post you've written, you'd rather default to reading a generic self-help book or scroll Instagram for some career change motivation, right? It feels safer to have a few half-assed stabs here and there instead of going all in, right? It feels safer to have no real commitment in terms of actually taking real action or putting your time or money towards something that might fail. You see what I'm getting at here? Dabbling feels safe, right? You're so afraid of failing, you'd rather dabble and not risk too much. Now, here's the thing. Dabbling is okay if it's to do with something that's not a big part of your life. But what we're talking about here is you actually want to create work you care about. So those 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, whatever it is that you choose to work, that's important. That's what you want to change. We're talking about you wanting to make a change that impacts so much of your life. Just think about how many hours a day you're not happy right now. So there's a lot at stake here for you to be dabbling about that, okay? Now, here's the sneaky thing about dabbling. Whilst it might feel safe to dabble, right? Because at least you can't fail when you do it. At the same time, dabbling also ensures that you don't get any real results and that you don't make any real changes. Instead, it literally guarantees you staying stuck in the job you hate. There's no return on investment when it comes to dabbling because you just get this mixed bag of a waste of time and nothing to show for it and exhaustion. And at the same time, you're beating yourself up for not doing enough when actually dabbling will ensure that you don't do enough. Dabbling is a buffer against failure. However, right now, you're likely stuck in a job you don't enjoy. So you should actually be a lot more worried about staying stuck and de-skilling yourself than doing what it really takes to change careers or to start that business, even if you risk in, quotation marks here, failure. And here's the thing, let's be real, let's have the conversation. Fear of failure is real. This comes up with pretty much all of my career change clients. They're so afraid of failing. But the flip side of that is that they're so afraid of messing up their career change because they're afraid they'll fail in the process, that it won't work out. That's often how we humans work. I know you really, really want to change careers, but maybe, you're more afraid of failing at that career change than actually succeeding at it. You put a lot more focus on the fact that you might fail than you do at the fact that you might succeed. Just be really honest with yourself right now. Is there a deep down, could the real reason be why you haven't made enough progress is that deep down you're so afraid of failing that you're not allowing yourself to try hard enough? You just have the dabbling steps and then, hey, at least that feels safe, which means you're not making progress on your career change because you're so afraid of failing that you keep sabotaging yourself and don't allow yourself to go all in to be 100% committed, right? Here's the thing though. It can actually be a helpful indication if you fear failure. Why? Because it shows that you truly care about something and you really want to get it right. It's a good thing to want something so much. You deep down want to create a career or business you love that you want to get out in the morning for. But what's so crazy is you do that so much that you feel like you have to protect that dream from harm and from failure. But what that does to you is that you therefore mistakenly feel that you have to dabble and buffer against failure of making it happen. So what does that mean? You don't take action. You don't do things that could lead to failure. Do you see the twisted, unhelpful logically here? Because that's likely what's happening, and I want you to see what is actually happening. However, let me be really frank. The career change process does not work like that. Dabbling is not the solution here. You don't get rid of fear of failure by dabbling. Instead, what you do when you dabble is that you delay or completely block your chance of ever making a career change or of ever starting your own business, because you hold yourself back from taking the actions, the risky actions potentially, the actions that might lead to failure by changing careers. Let me tell you a really inconvenient truth. Fear of failure will likely never go away for you. Fear of failure doesn't go away for many of us. Fear of failure does not necessarily go away whether you change careers or not. I changed careers over 17 years ago when I started my own business. And I'll be really honest with you, I still have a fear of failure. Like pretty much every time for example, I'll give you a really concrete example. Every time I put out a podcast, I actually kind of fear failure. It is not good enough, that it wasn't the right extent, that I didn't explain things well enough, that maybe, whatever it is, you name it. But I'll tell you something, my day-to-day experience of all of the things that I get to do in my business, in my career, makes that risk worth it. Because guess what? The difference between the people who made career changes, started their own business, the difference is we actually have something that is worth failing for and at. We've already created it and we keep creating that business, that career every day, and that is worth failing for. However, if you haven't yet changed careers or started that business, then you should actually be a lot more protective of actually creating that career, creating that business, no matter what it takes. You should fear a lot more staying stuck in that job scenario you're in right now. That is really, really important. Think about it. So right now you're buffering because you're so afraid of failure, but you are in a scenario where actually it's not really worth what you're doing. So you should be a lot more worried about getting out of that scenario and creating that career, that business that is actually worth failing for and failing at. But right now, you don't have that career, you don't have that business, you're just stuck in that job you hate. So you really need to stop the twisted logic of the dabbling. It does not protect you from fear of failure. You gotta get over that. And you gotta remember that every time you worry about fear of failure. It's, well, I don't actually have anything worthwhile created yet to fail at. So let me create something that is actually worth failing at or failing for. Another reason why people feel failure, right? They think that if they fail, they'll never get another chance to change careers or to start that business, that they're finished. They'll have to go back at their old job with their tail between their legs, live on the street, eat out of a can, whatever your fear scenario is. My friend, let me tell you this too. You don't just get one chance. You don't just get one step. You get many. If one idea doesn't work out or one way of implement doesn't work out, you just try another and you do that again and again. The real failure is staying stuck in a job you don't give a flying fart about because you're so worried about messing up your chance at creating work you love. Let me say that again. This is so important. Listen. The real failure is staying stuck in a job you don't give a flying fart about, you don't care about, you hate, because you're so worried about messing up your chance at creating work that you love. Okay? So my friend, fear of failure is not a sign to stop, but it's a sign that deep down you actually care about something. So make it matter. You will feel fear of failure no matter what. And you don't just get one chance. So stop dabbling and instead commit 100% to making that career change happen or to figuring out what it is that you want. Unless you like wasting your time and being deceived by the fear of failure and thinking that dabbling is going to protect you from that. Fear of failure won't go away. So you might as well go for it and create something worthwhile failing for and at. And remember, the career change process will take time. But the sooner you commit to the process, the sooner it will actually start. Dabbling just delays ever even getting started. So commit to the journey. Commit to the process right now. Commit 100% to figuring out what you want, or commit 100% to making it happen. So remember, number one, dabbling does not protect you against failure, but it does delay or block your career change. Okay. Let's go into number two. don't fall for the 100% fallacy. Focus on your commitment instead. Now, the 100% fallacy is a name that I've given to a fallacy I see a lot of aspiring career changers and a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs fall for again and again. And the 100% fallacy is this idea that your circumstances, your level of confidence, the timing, the state of the world, or your career change or your business idea has to be 100% perfect or aligned before you commit to your career change, before you can make it happen, before you can take serious action. Before that, only dabbling is safe, right? You literally have to wait until the 100% mark is hit before you can take action, before you can change. It's similar to what's called the arrival fallacy. Only when X, then Y. Only when I get to this point, then I can do this. It's so unrealistic and it's so unhelpful. For career changers, one way that dabbling expresses itself is that I see them waiting for this utopian time when they'll have 100% certainty about their career change idea, about their business idea, or 100% perfection, or 100%, waiting for the world's circumstances to be perfect, or their personal circumstance to be perfect, or their level of confidence, or whatever it is that they're waiting for. They're waiting for this 100% unrealistic score. Things have to be aligned 100%. If not, they'll not go all in. They won't commit. They won't do this and that. I can tell you with 100% certainty that it doesn't work like that. If you want to wait for 100% certainty, 100% perfection, you can wait to the end of your life, my friend. I understand why you're doing it. We humans, we like cognitive closure, right? The 100%. We're not so comfortable with ongoing processes that might never get to 100%. But here's the thing. Career change is an ongoing process that will never get to 100%. You will never get to 100% perfection. I've never seen anyone get there. Nobody gets there. So you have to get comfortable with less than 100%, with less than perfection. You need to get used to being comfortable with a lot less numbers, whether that's, 51% or 63% or 70% or whatever it is. No business is perfect. There will be a downside to any career, any business. If you want to wait for world peace or for there to be no more pandemics or diseases, if you want to wait to be 100% confidence, you can literally risk waiting forever. Meanwhile, let's face something that you're in right now, which is where you are right now is already a less than 100% perfect work scenario, right? So there are likely already now career change and business scenario where the percentage is a lot better than the scenario you're in right now. So why wouldn't you want to commit to creating those instead? Like, what's the percentage you're in of your current job, that job you're in right now, that work scenario, compared to perfection? It's probably maybe at the max, 22, 23, 25%. Whereas the ones that you're actually thinking about, those careers, that business, that might already be a lot higher on the scale. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Be honest, my friend. What is it that you're waiting for to hit 100% that actually right now already have enough percentage for you to go all in on it? Remember, you cannot control the world, but what you can always control is your 100% commitment to making things happen. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to take some time after this podcast to make a list of all of the things you're waiting for to be 100% perfect before you feel that you can commit and go all in on your career change, right? Because what's happening, those are the ones that are making you dabble, that are making you wait. So what is it specifically, right? What are those things that are specifically making you wait? Now, some personal scenarios might be genuine issues that need attention. So be highly specific and work with a time frame. But I've never come across a scenario that actually helped my clients back from at least getting started with the process and committing and going 100% in on the career change process. And then with their own scenario in tandem and working that out. Most people, what I find when they do this exercise, what are those things you're waiting for unrealistically to be 100% perfect? What they actually find is that they're very vague scenarios. And they're scenarios where actually they're just being totally unrealistic. And it's things that are out of their hands anyway. And they're just vague about it. Be honest and look at what is within your control that you're waiting for and what is not. You will be surprised by how many people are waiting for scenarios to be perfect that are 100% totally out of their control. right? And also look at, well, with certain things, if you're waiting for perfection, is there a lower percentage that's actually going to be okay, right? For you to get your butt in gear and get started? Don't wait for perfection. Start the process instead. Choosing perfection is just a dabbling technique. Commitment only starts when you get going and you improve things as you go along. And that's really the antidote to dabbling and to perfection here, is that realize that career change is a process. It's not some kind of static thing that you get to and then everything comes together. It is a dynamic, ongoing process, and you need to get started with the process now. You are likely more ready than you think. Remember, the percentage does not go up with inaction or with overthinking or with dabbling and waiting. It actually probably just goes down. When I left my corporate career and started my business, none of my business was 100% perfect. But if I insisted on waiting for 100% perfection or for 100% perfect circumstances in the world to line up, I would still be in that bloody job, right? There are always bits and bobs that are not perfect. I would be stuck there still now. So get clear. What are you unrealistically still waiting for to be perfect? And really the antidote is to realize that the career change is a process, and it only starts when you commit and you go all in. And that means that when you do that, those things that are not 100% perfect, you can only start improving them when you actually start working on them, whether it's your career change idea, your business, your confidence. All of that only starts improving when you actually commit to your career change and you start taking the scary actions that might lead to failure that it takes to change careers or to start that business. Right? And here's the thing, my friend. Guess what is always 100% within your control? That is your commitment, and there is where you should focus instead. Okay? So let's wrap up here. Remember, dabbling does not protect you against failure, but it does delay or pretty much guarantees that it'll block your career change. Also, don't fall for the 100% fallacy. Focus on your commitment instead. So over to you. Where do you need to stop dabbling and waiting for 100% perfection? Get specific, get concrete, and commit. That is when everything starts coming together. So ask yourself this next time that you get into that dangerous dabbling zone again. Do you want to dabble or do you want to change careers? Do you want to dabble or do you want to start that business? Right? Remember, the only thing, my friend, in this world that's 100% within your control is your commitment. So focus on that. Dabbling does not keep you safe. 100% perfection or alignment in the world with everything does not exist neither. So get your butt in gear and commit. If you want help with that, then I'll see you over at thecareerchangepodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening.